So, Donnie, has something happened recently in the past couple days?
I don't know what you're talking about, but everything sure seems a little lighter these days.
Yeah, even with us going back an hour and it being darker earlier in the day, things seem just a little bit sunnier to me. Would you agree?
Definitely. And it's not just us, man. Everywhere you go, supply house, restaurants, everybody's just, even over the phone, people seem to be in a good mood. You tell
Yeah,
me.
sure. I'd agree. It's the future's so bright, you got to wear shades kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
And welcome to the Carolina Contractor Show. My name's Eric Smith. I do inside sales with Home Builders Supply in Wilson, Greenville. Donnie Blanchard, the other happy guy here among millions of people, the majority of the U.S., I would say. Donnie's a general contractor, also owner of SureTop Roofing, owner of Blanchard Building Company. And this is our little show we do. We usually talk specifically about your house, like DIY projects, or even building a house from scratch, from the ground up, like Donnie does, and ways to improve it and things like that. But today, with the recent election or re-election of Donald Trump to the White House, we're going to kind of go over some of the things that he has promised. Now, I haven't talked to you, Donnie, but I would assume that, like the majority of people that voted for him, there were probably two main things: the economy and immigration. And people know his stance on those two things. But he had some other areas where he's taken positions of what he wants to do once he assumes office again, for the winning for the third time. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? Winning for the second time. And we're going to go over those in a little bit. But do you want to say did you have any categories, Donnie, that you specifically supported Trump on, or why you voted for him? Because it's no secret who we voted for.
Absolutely. To agree with what you just said, the economy was my hot button, and I watched my sales not tank, but we lost about $2 million in sales since before the pandemic, and that's really tough to make up for. Our overhead almost doubled, and it just seemed like every policy that has been put in place in the last 3.5 years didn't work for me. So, when we talked about putting the show together, I think the interesting tie-in is we came up with a lot of facts and a lot of categories that relate to construction and what, we expect, what we expect, not what we expect, but what he ran on as a campaign promise. And I think we can tie that all the way back to the 2016 through 2020 and what he started with then and what he's going to pick up, what he's not going to pick up, and what he's going to do better.
100%. And I do think he's more seasoned as a politician, as a leader, and I'm hoping he picks better people. It seems so far he has, because we haven't heard much dirt on him during the campaign that was real. And maybe that's because all that dirt has been revealed. You know who he is. So whether you agree with his character or not, we're not voting on a date for the Valentine's dance. We're voting for somebody to lead a nation. And I'm going to take the warts and all that come with someone like that. But before we jump into the show in detail, I do want to mention again, this is the Carolina Contractor Show, and the website is a great place to find information about what we're doing here. TheCarolinaContractor.com. We got links to Facebook. If you want to watch the show, it's on YouTube. You can also find the podcast. We've got several hundred of them. Download those onto your favorite medium, whether you want to listen to on your phone or on your computer. It's on all the suppliers, Apple and iHeart and Google and all those. And also, if you have a question about the show or you have a question directly about your house, again, you've got a general contractor on your side and Donnie Blanchard, so he can answer your questions. Just click on the Ask the Contractor button. Also want to mention that Donnie's a movie star. He doesn't think he is, but he's kind of a TV star. Sorry, wrong medium. So a while back, let's see, how long has this been, Donnie, that you started working with 50/50 Flip?
We filmed all 10 episodes last year, and we finished in the fall of last year. And the interesting thing that happened was A&E Network filmed the show. So we worked with all the executive producers from that network. And right at the very end, Hulu swooped in and bought the rights to the show. So I think Hulu only took on about 4 shows from A&E, and ours was one of those. So Hulu reserved the rights to debut the show back in February. And I think that the thing they had in place was that had to wait 6 or 8 months before A&E could air the show, because they wanted to see how the metrics were playing out for Hulu, and which is fair. But it's taken all this time, and finally this Saturday on the what's Saturday? November 9th. So Saturday, November the 9th, we will air episode 1 on A&E Network at 11 a.m. And they said that they will air 1 episode a week for 10 weeks. And then I think we're going to rerun for about 2 years, which is big time because, hopefully we'll be all over A&E for the next couple years. And, not everybody has Hulu. No knock on Hulu, but I didn't have it before the show came out, and I basically got it just to watch our show and check it out. So I think that we'll get a much broader audience when it airs on A&E, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so the show, again, is 50-50 flip, and basically they find houses, and they buy them and then flip them, and they do it in a short period of time. The reason we also bring it up was not only Donnie, the on-camera general contractor, they also came in studio and did a show with us, and there's an episode there where you can see us, Donnie's families in various parts. It's a cool show. You get to see Donnie in action, and we were just very thankful that they decided to also do our show, which they'd done before on radio, but to have them bring in the TV studio from A&E was a pretty monumental and pretty cool thing to see.
Oh, that was a big deal. If you could see behind the scenes, and I think on our Instagram and our Facebook page, I have a couple of videos showing just how big the production crew was, and kind of made me feel important. But I forgot to mention one thing that's important, that it's season 2. So season 1, there was a different guy, and he wasn't, I don't think he even had a general contractor license, and they only came up with 6 episodes out of 10 for season 1. It's still pretty darn good. Dedrick and Crystal did a great job, but season 2 was my time to shine, and they really they gave me some tough jobs, and we flipped 10 houses, and I'd say about 6 out of the 10 were, in terms of difficulty, some of the hardest renovations I've ever pulled off, but man, they look good, and it's really been great for business, and it's been one of those things that's very thought provocative in terms of ideas for your house. So encourage everybody to check it out 11 o'clock Saturday morning.
Yep. Thank you very much, A&E Television. This Saturday is the debut of season 2, 50-50 flip. But let's jump into the big thing. We're going to talk about Donald Trump getting reelected. Somebody said it was I know I was one of them, but there's a joke he was elected for the 3rd time. I pointed out that he defeated 2 presidential candidates in one race because technically he defeated Biden and then he defeated Harris. And you have that celebratory week if your candidate wins, or if you have something that's monumental like this. It was Grover Cleveland that won the presidency twice, but not consecutively. So that was in the late 1800s. So this is a pretty monumental thing, and also the first time the Republican candidate won the popular vote nationwide in
long time.
Since what I think George W., his second term, I think, won the national popular vote. But still, it's a big deal. But regardless of what side you're on, Trump has a platform. The GOP has a platform. There's a lot of things in it. And so these are subjects we're going to cover today, that we're going to talk about what he has promised, or maybe, as you said, Donnie, what he did his first term that he will continue, and maybe some things that he had going in his first term, then he lost. They were stopped, and he's going to start them back up. And I think we need to start off with the big one, which would be energy.
Yeah. I mean, no secret that he really wants to focus on domestic energy production, which is fossil fuels. And the pipeline got cut off as soon as he got out of there. And ironically, the Russian pipeline opened up. So it's like all these people who are, we could basically give the fossil fuels to, we're getting it from somewhere else. And it just kind of seemed like somebody else was behind that. And I don't understand the reason for cutting off the, is Keystone the right word? Keystone pipeline?
Keystone pipeline, yes, sir.
So the one that they shut down, that's that was unfortunate because, of course, we saw the end result with the gas prices. But one of the things he wants to end is that the regulations on federal drilling permits, leases, anything related to oil and gas, and that's not just something that we picked up off the internet. That's straight off of his website. So from the horse's mouth, that's a campaign promise.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of other regulatory barriers that we don't know about when it comes to energy sector, because drilling for oil or anything where you're going to be drilling into the ground is kind of like trying to start a brewery. There's so many obstacles put in the way for you to start producing that and distributing it and getting it out there. And a lot of companies are like, it's not worth the hassle.
Mm-mm.
But being energy independent, if you want a history lesson, which I'm not going to get, look into Teddy Roosevelt. He was the master of it. He said, let the rest of the world sell us their stuff and we'll keep ours. And then when we need it, we can tell them to take a hike. And this is a time of the world that if we have all the stuff we need and we can get it, the rest of the world has no power behind us. So yeah, drill, baby, drill. I'm all for that.
Yeah, energy independence. I mean, that's a big thing. I don't know that we've been energy independent in a long time, and we're sitting on more oil reserves than anybody else in the world. And I didn't know that until they made that a fact. And I said, hey, you know, what in the world? Nothing makes sense about why we're doing this. And I understand. I don't understand, but I know that they have the other side is really pushing for clean energy and, you know, windmills, solar. I'm all about solar. I don't know about windmills, but, you know, they're against things like nuclear power, which has the least waste. It's the cleanest way to produce power. But it just seems like it goes against common sense. And, you know, I had someone tell me when I was complaining about the price of gas going up, well, it's only $100 a week. I said, well, yeah, but I have 9 trucks on the road. So $100 a week ends up being $4,000 to $5,000 a month for somebody like me. And the jobs that I'm doing this month, I priced out several months ago. So where does that money come from? And really, it has just forced us to get creative. It's forced us to cut our overhead way back. And really, it's been one of those things when we compete in the subcontractor world with the roofing or in the contractor world with the housing, we're competing with people that don't play by the same rules. So, you know, things like $4,000 a month just for gas alone, that's really a dagger for somebody with a small business like mine.
Now, I want to interject something. As some people know, you among them, Donnie, my wife is a high school teacher, and she knows history. That's what she is her forte. I said Teddy Roosevelt, and she's in the other room, and she sends me a text and says it was FDR. It was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, not Teddy Roosevelt. So I'm fine with being corrected by her. That's
Thanks,
cool.
Kim.
Next time. Yeah. Thanks. Did you hear that, hon? He thanked you. She said she heard you. Thank you. All right, let's jump to the next thing, environment. And this ties to energy because, as we said before, when you're going to drill for oil, a lot of the things that stopped it were environmental issues, and a lot of it was crap. The Keystone was strictly political. They use that you're going to harm the way a gray mouse poops in the trees or something if you build this pipeline. But it was strictly caving to environmental extremists, and some of them are even designated, I don't know if you knew this, as terrorist organizations. I think the environmental parts that Trump is for is where Republicans or conservatives in general need to explain clearly. We love the environment. It's like hunters love deer. They want to manage populations, but people that don't understand it say, well, they're just killing Bambi. Much like the environment, conservative management of the environment is the norm. We understand it and we want to do it. We're not reckless with it. But there are some things that he wants to do. And a lot of that, to me, is going to be into getting rid of the climate change agreements and barriers, because we're saying, oh, the world's turning into hell. We can't do this anymore. You can't have AC and it's going to cost you money out of your wallet. And he probably wants to get rid of a lot of those restrictions. Yeah,
he'd said that he wanted to dramatically cut the EPA's budget. So that was the way they worded that, and said that they rolled back more than 100 or so environmental rules. And one of the reasons for that is it's sped up permitting on construction projects, which is how it ties into my world. And you know, I can't tell you. It depends on the municipality. So, I don't want to call them out by name, but I'm in Burlington, and, you know, that's Alamance County, you know, Chatham County, Orange County, Wake County are border folks to us. And I just want to sing the praises of Alamance County because they operate with common sense, and you can it may take a couple of weeks, but, you know, the right hand knows what the left hand's doing in the environmental health department. So you can put an application. Everything's very streamlined, and, you know, most of the municipalities are going to portals right now where we have to do this all online. You know, that's okay for me. I'm sort of tech savvy, but, you know, I can only imagine a 65, 70-year-old contractor who, you know, not too good with a computer. He probably pulls his hair out, because if you get in one of these surrounding counties, you know, the red tape is just insane. And like I said about Alamance County, in these surrounding counties, it's like the right hand talk to the left hand, so they don't know
Right.
the entity that you're dealing with doesn't know what other people in the department in the same building are even doing. So it's almost like they're putting a policy in place that they don't even know how to enforce. So for somebody like myself, you just have to please everybody. And I won't call them out by name either, but just recently got a permit about a year ago, that is, in a county next to us, and it took me 4 or 5 months to get that permit. I've never seen such, and it was little things like you would upload it into the portal, and it would be a JPEG image and not a PDF file, and they would reject it, but you wouldn't know that until you check back. And they're in the process of trying to streamline the contractors to use the portal, and that's better for them. But it's just really muddy in the meantime, and it's tough to get a permit. And I think all that's just because they put all these green regulations in place, and that calls for somebody to have a new job that pays 80 to 100 grand. And those people, they want to seem relevant. So they want you to see how important they are, and they're part of the process to approve or disapprove your permit. And I can't say that I disagree with this in terms of what you said earlier. The climate change thing, I'm not the guy to say yay or nay on it, but my gut tells me it almost seems like a hoax. It seems like a cause that's not worth fighting for. And gosh, when $100 grocery trip is all of a sudden $200, I don't care if it's a quarter of a degree warmer this year. Address accordingly.
Yeah, because giving the government more money is not going to affect the environment. They're just going to waste it on something else. Speaking of that, we did a whole show one time on the Inflation Reduction Act, and was it going to affect inflation and reduce it? And back in September, Biden was talking, and he has these moments of unintentional honesty or clarity. And he said that he referred to it as the climate change bill or the Green Deal. And he even went on to say we should have just called it that because that's what the money was for. So he flat out admitted in September this wasn't going to do anything for inflation, really. It was just a spending bill for the greenies. And again, I'm not against environmental controls. I'm not against doing things that benefit it, but I think conservation, that's a Teddy Roosevelt thing. Conservative values, if they're truly done right, are great for the environment and its management, and that's what we need. Let's jump to the hot topic issue that a lot of people voted Trump for, and this was his stance on immigration. We knew this before he ran in 2016, and it seemed like the wall was the big thing, but he ran into a problem, and that was a GOP who could have financed and helped him, wouldn't finance or help him really do this wall. So he tried to take some different approaches to it that didn't fail. So I think this time, maybe will the GOP help him really fight illegal immigration?
So, sorry. Had a call.
Okay.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. He went out with the intention to build 2,000 miles of border wall, and he ended up coming out of that with about 52 miles, I think, is all that he was able to build, because he just ran into a brick wall, no pun intended. And they're really, I think this time around maybe they'll work with him. That leads me to comment on mass deportations. I think that he promised that, and I'm all about deporting people who are criminals with a criminal record. I think that that's something that has no place here. I also think that there are a lot of good folks here, and I'm knee deep in the construction world. There are a lot of good folks here who really need to be taken into consideration for just a path to legal citizenship. And the guys that work for us, they've all taken that path, and it is hard. It takes time, but they all, also pay taxes, and now they have the ability to get a car loan, get a house loan, and it's life-changing. So I think just instead of just sending a lot of people out with no explanation, I think that you vet these folks, and if, criminal record, you're gone. If you shouldn't be here, if you, certain things like maybe you don't speak any English. That makes it a lot harder on you. If you don't have a skill set, that makes it a lot harder on you. So I'm kind of on the fence with that one. I don't. The mass deportations, I think, is going to be very complicated. And if you can imagine what that looks like, what do? You round up all these people into an area, a big fenced area, and do you bus them out? Do you fly them out? And are there children involved? That just gets so messy and muddy. And it's no secret that Hispanics are a huge part of the construction workforce. And when I say that I preach respect in my household, I tell my daughters and my son that, hey, so many folks, so many Hispanic folks are great people. And I think that, this has been a hot button for the election, but I think that it might have been pitched a little too aggressively because realistically, I don't know how you solve that one overnight.
And you don't. And I think both you and I work in industries where we're working with people, Hispanic or, as you pointed out, the language barrier, but we work with them every day. If you couldn't handle that, you wouldn't work in those industries. Let me just tell you that. As you said, so many great people. I think the first thing is just shut the influx. Just say, all right, we're shutting the door. We're not letting people come in. And we're going to make it a priority to build that wall, as corny as it may sound, to let's stop anybody coming in or slow it greatly, and then go through the process of what you said. You want to get a license, you want to get this, but you're undocumented. Let's run some stuff. If you don't have a criminal record, that's a positive thing. If you're employed, it's positive. The other thing is, I don't think we as Americans understand that there's so many people working where they're paid under the table, cash, because they're not legal. And because of that, a couple things happen. They don't put money into the government through income tax and things like that. But I also know a lot of people that I've seen through working for the past couple of years in construction, you've seen it probably more, that their parents and even grandparents are still working because they have no Social Security benefits either because they never paid into it. So there's many things we can do to determine you're out, you get to stay, but you do need to go through this certain pathway, but you've already proven to be a positive, productive benefit to society. But shut the gate right now, keep it closed, or just leave a trickle open. And even the Biden administration admitted they weren't doing many background checks at all. You and I had to wear masks and we're told we should get shots for COVID, but they weren't. They weren't checked for communicable diseases. So those pop up. So there's not just reasons of who's going to pick my strawberries, which, by the way, we'll get into this next week. I hate that position of who's going to do the slave labor if we don't have the illegal immigrants. Have a little respect for these people. They could actually earn more and they could become an even bigger benefit. But it's what a leftist mentality. Well, who's going to do my laundry? Who's going to pick my food if we get rid of them? How about pay them, train them, let them come in, vet them?
Yep. There's a couple of clips on the internet where they went to very well-to-do neighborhoods and they asked the folks where they stood on immigration policy and everything, and they fully supported it being wide open and all the things. And the guy said, "Well, okay." He had a walkie-talkie. He said, "Well, pull up. We've got somewhere for them to go." And they pull up, and about 20 people jump off of a bus, and the lady says, "Oh, wait, you can't stay here." They backed up real quick. Sort of like some of the politicians. It's like, you run for one thing, but when this comes to your neighborhood, knocks on your door, you think a whole different way.
Kim and I talk about that being people who want to help a liberal cause or not even a liberal cause, that they're glad to give money to the soup kitchen. But if you ask them, do you want to come down and help make the meals and serve them? They're like, whoa, that's dirty work. I don't do that. Mm-hmm. If I just throw some money to it, that's a good thing, right? And that's where the government preys on ignorance. Yes, give us money, we'll do it right. And so they think that, well, let's raise taxes. That'll make everybody happy. Hey, every time the government issues a huge fine on a corporation, they did this violation and we find them $1 billion and they price gouge, we find them $3 billion and all this. did you or I see any benefit of all these fines and fees that companies have to pay to the U.S. government because they trump up some sort of charge on them or violation? It doesn't make your life any better. And if you tax people more and more, I don't see anything. Short piece of the soapbox left that I have here. Every time you say, yeah, tax those rich people, ask yourself, how do you benefit? How do you get anything better in life when a millionaire, a billionaire, whoever gets more taxes applied to them? You never see any benefit because the money ain't coming to you. It's going to the government. They're going to spend it on other stuff. I'm off my box.
No, I agree. What's next? Infrastructure?
Yeah, and infrastructure is, I don't know what you're doing. You can get some things started, but I don't know where you start, and I don't know how long it's going to take, and I don't know if you have ideas of what you think would be a good starting point to improve infrastructure in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, really, obviously you drive through certain towns and you're thinking, wow, they need an upgrade here, and where are the tax dollars in this town? And I just feel like a lot of that money is inappropriated. I think that infrastructure bills are out there that are a good thing in the high traffic areas where the big cities are. Obviously you have no choice but to keep everything serviced very well in those areas. But the trickle down to some of the lower income counties that surround those areas are I don't see that money being allocated in the right way. And infrastructure, I know that they have a lot of programs for minority and women-owned businesses, and that's all fine and good. But I do believe that there was part of the area on Trump's website where he said he was going to cut infrastructure funding programs for some of these, and some of these were tied to that Inflation Reduction Act that you mentioned. And I think that it's one of those things where the Republican Party basically said that they must return to their roots as a party of industry, manufacturing, infrastructure, and workers, but they didn't offer any policy specifics until now. So I'm anxious. He hasn't commented a lot on this one, but I know that he knows it needs attention, and so I think that he's going to make it very fair, so that maybe he'll make it where the more qualified company gets the job. I'm not against the minority and women-owned businesses, but it's one of those things where on a great big project, that's way out of my world. That's not my competition. That's competition for the other folks who operate on a $20 million scale. So I'm anxious to see how that plays out.
I will say one thing when it comes to infrastructure, especially if Elon Musk is going to be on his team in some way or be active in the presidential's, I don't know if the presidential cabinet, but they might form something new, is I'm fine if you want the electric car, the Tesla and all that, but the infrastructure is not there to power it. So if he wants this dream of having electric cars and transportation, he's going to have to make that a priority. That's the number one thing. Energy produced needs to make it to usage points, and right now it's not there. Of course, they put billions to build charging stations, and they ended up some stupid number like we're going to build 75,000 charging stations in Biden's 4 years, and they've built some ridiculously low number like 50 or something, and the money's gone. So we need more oversight in that. But my number one thing will be energy infrastructure, and because everything else is going to depend on that.
Yep.
So at the recording of this show, the Fed dropped interest rates by 1/4 point. And that's a big thing people talk about because they kind of, they've been very high. Now they're starting to come down. And Trump has talked about wanting to have a president given ability to influence or have an opinion about the Fed and the adjusting of interest rates. I'm against that. And my reason is the president could use that as a billy club. He could say, hey, I might be raising them next week. Oh, maybe I'll lower them. Maybe I'll keep them the same. Maybe I'll influence the Fed chair to make this change on interest rates. Well, that's going to affect the markets, and that would be a huge influence on it. I think you try to keep it separately from the administrative branch and let the Fed do it. But I do believe the Fed is corrupt and has their fingers too far into world economies, and there's too much those, crazy secret meetings in like Switzerland and whatnot, where they all get together, or where is it in Montana? All these rich people get together and talk about world economies, and that kind of freaks me out.
No, I agree with you 1,000%. It does feel like a Billy Club effect there. And I think that I trust him. I don't think he's corrupt. I think that he's the least corrupt out of anybody that's ran in my lifetime, probably, because, he's the only non-politician that's actually won the election. And so I don't think he would do that. But if you set that for him, then, of course, who followed after him and so on would have that capability to use that as a sort of not a weapon, but just some sort of leverage. All I care about is that they go down, and I don't know that they will, but I've got a lot, my kids are going to have to buy a house in the next decade, and I don't want them to have to buy a house at 7 or 8%. And I'm watching a lot of the young folks. My fiance's daughter, she's right out of school, got a great job, got an awesome college degree, awesome person, hard worker. She's moving up rocket fast in her job, but still, considering an entry level position, it's a tough thing for her to realistically buy a house. Can she afford a $2,000 house payment? No, she can't. And even if she were to marry and they put their incomes together, it's still going to be a strain. So I think the easing of the interest rates, no matter how it happens, I think that's something that needs to be sooner than later.
Yeah, and Trump will take credit for the drop. I think it's interesting. 2 days after he won, the rates go down a quarter point. We talked about this a few months ago when I said Trump wanted all interest rate decisions to be made after the election, and that's because he'd want to take credit for it.
Yep.
And, they had one interest rate cut before the election. They have one 2 days after he wins in a landslide. You could say that was influenced by it, that they want to get on his good side. Also, in a past episode of the Carolina Contractor, we talked about interest rates dropping even a full point doesn't mean, finally I can go get that house.
Yeah,
it's not the be all end all. It's a good thing to have them come down because it makes borrowing money easier and more affordable. But that's not just for buying a house. It's for Donnie Blanchard. When Blanchard Building Company is buying supplies, it means you pay less for it. It means that my store pays less and we can charge other people. Interest rates have so much bigger effect on the general economy than it does just for buying a house. And there's too much focus, in my opinion, on the mortgage rate because, right now I could sell somebody a house and say, this house right here, $650,000, interest rate 0. Why? Because the house is really only worth $150,000. Did you get a good deal? No, you got a crappy deal. Lower interest rates benefit so many more sectors. And it kind of is a self-leveling thing.
I've got a mentor who is near and dear to my heart. He's like a dad to me. And he basically we spoke right after the election, and his stocks really jumped to the tune of several $1,000s. And he has two daughters who voted the other way, and they don't understand his way of thinking, and I don't think he understands theirs. But he made the nicest comment ever when he said, "Hey, just wanted to say I hope things get better for you. I hope your interest rate goes down, which will lower your house payment. I hope the cost of your fuel, goes down, because that's just going to help all that gas money that you spend to run your kids around." So I think he really hit them with a practical statement that is proven to be true just a day or two after the election. But my hope is that it only gets better from here.
Yeah, and I do feel positive about it. Now, there were several other categories of Trump's platform or the GOP platform we were considering talking about, but time is never our friend because once we get rolling on things, we run out of time. But I do want to go back to Tuesday night. First of all, when did you feel he's got this? And how late did you stay up, Donnie?
Oh, I'm not a night owl, so I go hard during the day. And I tried my best, and I think midnight was as late as I made it, and actually fell asleep on my couch, woke up at 1 a.m. and he hadn't locked it down yet. And I thought, I bought into the rumor. It may take several days to decide who's going to win the presidential election. And of course, I woke up about maybe my eyes usually open around 5:30, and I checked my text message and had 15 text messages with hearts and American flags and just fireworks. And so I didn't even have to read the text because I didn't have my glasses on anyway. But didn't have to read the text to know that all is well. And to be honest with you, I went right back to sleep and I slept like a rock, just knowing that.
So, you said that you can't stay up late, and then you say you made it to dang near midnight. So I go to bed like 9 o'clock. I admit it. I got to be at work before 7 a.m. But I stayed up to the whopping crack of 10:15. But I actually was very confident in the 8 o'clock hour. I actually said to my wife, I said, as these numbers come in, and it was actually Scott, the senator from Florida, who's never won a election by much more than a half a percentage point, and he won like by 10. And I went, oh Lord, this is done. So I was pretty confident before 8:30 that he had this in the bag. I didn't fall for the other stuff, but I'm also a stat hound. I love looking at statistics and trends, and I was very confident what he was going to do. Am I confident of the future 4 years with him? I do think he's mellow. I think a bullet will make you think differently when you see your life go right in front of your eyes. So I think he is maybe chilled out a little bit. The big key is going to be who's he going to put around him. And I hope he doesn't go back to that guy's an idiot. Well, you picked him. That lady, she's stupid. Well, you picked her. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. If you're game for it, Donnie, next week, maybe we can go a little bit more into some of these topics, and then maybe even tie in some things, how it really will affect our industries, specifically building supply and building and general contracting in general. You game for that?
I am. I think it's as relevant as any topic can be right now, and I say let's do it.
All right. Well, we will do that. We'll talk more about Trump, his re-election, his third victory in the presidential race. Sorry,
no, it's okay.
We've all seen the chart.
We're in agreement.
We've all seen the chart. If you want to find out more information, go to the website, thecarolinacontractor.com. We've got our social media links there too. Previous shows that I've been referencing, you can get them there. And next week, we'll do part 2 of what's going to be in a Trump presidency and how it can benefit construction, building, and the industries that are related to it in general. So we hope to see you next week on the Carolina Contractor Show.
Thanks, everybody.